before I introduce you properly, Taylor Gunn, we connected on Substack, which you are online, and I think you're growing it at the moment. But you're also on YouTube, and yeah, you just want to get this correctly, but you are in you have over 7 billion views as head of post-production and lead video editor for Mr. Beast. So you contributed in a big way on that channel, which I mean, it's been there for years. And I've encountered so many videos on Mr. Beast. So it is a huge deal to be working with that team. So we'll go a bit about it, but yeah, hopefully we'll get into the topics that we planned to explore. And yeah, for you on your side, let's start with how you started, Taylor. Tell me about your beginnings, and did you even thought about this? I mean, as a possibility
No,
of exploring.
no. It was pretty much all an accident. I I've worked pretty much every job that a person could in my late teens and early 20s. Everything from like making pizzas and selling shoes to a lot of construction, a lot of welding, which is kind of weird because I always wanted to do something creative. I just never knew kind of how to break in. I've always been a writer. I've always been a musician. And then somewhere around, I think like 2014, 2013, 2014, I started to explore the idea of like being a filmmaker. I've always loved YouTube. I think my YouTube channel, I created it back in like 2015 or 2016, but I was watching the platform actively, like without an account, because it wasn't that big of a deal back in the day, since like maybe 2008, 2009. I just loved it. I didn't think that there was no such thing as a YouTuber back then, but it kind of all was a happy accident. I was the Mr. Beast thing. That was a ton of fun and extremely blessed opportunity to be able to go there and work with some really talented people. 7 billion views sounds like, it sounds like this astronomical thing, but I've been doing this for like 12 years and he's just like one out of like a couple hundred different creators that I've worked with and for, and, I've probably been a part of like well over 1,000 videos at this point. So it's just one of those things. It's like, if you put a dollar in the stock market every day for 12 years, it's like by the end of 12 years, like it looks pretty fancy, but it's just that daily effort.
Were you self-taught? Did you like just learn?
Yeah. It was originally, I was inspired to start video editing, but then I kind of to become a creator. But then, so I started learning all of the peripheral skills that are required with that, such as like video editing, thumbnail design, VFX, sound design. Luckily, I had a musical background, so I was like, I loved not just putting music in videos, but composing music for videos. Or as I tell video editors, don't ever put songs on videos. You should be scoring the video with music, right? We don't want to just slap music onto videos. So I started learning all the skills that went along with that. And then there wasn't any Fiverr back then, really, or if there was, it wasn't really on my radar. Back then it was Upwork. And so that's kind of how I started getting paid basically no money for a ton of work, all for someone to give you like a 3-star review that's like, yeah, Taylor's great, and it's like, oh man, come on. What could I have done for those extra 2 stars? But it's really fun. And luckily I kind of had my wife to support me at the time, because there's no way that I would have been able to. I don't really make that much any money really for the first 2 years video editing, maybe a couple $100.
Some lunch money.
And yeah, pretty much. It just and it was such a grind, because YouTube wasn't established in the way that it is today. The occupation of video editor on YouTube wasn't taken seriously as it is compared to, say, traditional media. and the channels, the proper networking channels weren't really set up yet for creators to find editors. That supply and demand thing hadn't really evolved yet. And so it wound up just being a lot of me sending emails to creators being like, hey, I could do this for you. And it was a lot of no's and a couple yeses. And that's kind of how I started it out as a failed writer and failed musician, like most video editors.
But how did you decide to take that, jump?
It was, I think I was watching, I don't know, like an early Sam Colder video or something like that. It kind of hit me where it's like, I love story. I have this huge background in story and I love film. And, I've always loved videography and shooting things, but I'd never been the person to really like edit it or like do it for YouTube. And so everything just kind of clicked one day where I was like, I think I want to try to do that. And I downloaded this free video editing software called Lightworks. That was terrible. And quickly moved on. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but I moved on to Premiere. And I just started teaching myself, which is many online resources as existed back then, which was nothing compared to today. Today, you can find free courses. There's a lot of different options for video editing software. Back then, it was either like you have a Mac and use Final Cut, or you have a PC and you use Premiere. There was a couple other options, but not like it is today. Like DaVinci today is like a real competitor in the marketplace. I still use Premiere though.
But then, did you feel like you should have started earlier, or was the right time?
No, I was a pretty late bloomer. I work with a lot of younger people, that are like 16, 17, and they're so great at video editing. They're just absolute creative athletes, and I think that's awesome. I really think about how talented the younger generation is coming up, and I'm really excited to see kind of how they're going to continue to push the envelope with VFX and 3D modeling and all the things that they're doing. And it's really exciting because on a technical level, they're so good. But I was a very late bloomer. I didn't, all I knew is that I loved story in life. I didn't really anticipate being a video editor until I was about 25. Even though I'd done like videography and some things in the past, I didn't consider it as it relates to YouTube until I was about 25. And even then it took like, it took me a long time to actually just say, well, I'm going to only work in YouTube. I'm not going to do weddings or commercials or Facebook ads or all those little odd jobs that you get thrown when you're first starting out. I just decided to kind of zero in, and that was about 2015.
Oh, wow. That's I totally understand. Like, I have some friends who are wedding photographers or something, and they only did it part-time. But yeah, take me back to that time when you had those like early problems that you spotted in your content creation journey, so to speak.
Yeah, it was so weird back then because I think one of the biggest media evolutions that's happened since I started was the idea of the subscription model. Back then everything was pay to play, and you just kind of bought things as you needed and then had them, and that worked out in some ways really, really well. Like Premiere, obviously, the Adobe Creative Cloud was a subscription model, but there wasn't like these big databases and indexes of presets and extensions and tools and fonts and all of these cool resources, either paid or free. And so one of the big bottlenecks back then was you kind of had to learn how to do everything from scratch, whether it was a zoom transition or a whip or whatever you wanted to do, a lot of hand masking. And so things took a lot of time. And also the YouTube industry wasn't as kind of respected as it is today. And so the money on the table was a lot less. Now there's kind of stupid money getting thrown around on YouTube. I think whether it's a channel manager, VFX artist, video editor, thumbnail design, whatever it is, there's a viable occupation for everybody creatively behind the camera, you know, like kind of like what you're doing with this podcast. One of the things I've been doing lately on Substack is writing this kind of expose. And it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. It's called YouTube Confidential. And it's there to kind of discuss the industry from within the industry in a way that not a lot of YouTubers do, because now there's this advertiser friendly corporate interest in everybody having like, you know, like a clean shaven, sparkly white teeth, nice slick hair, and like these really squeaky clean Disney Channel images. And so a lot of them just don't talk about the kind of stuff that I would talk about. And so I'm really happy to not only do that, but to give a spotlight to a lot of people in my cohort who really don't get a lot of credit. They don't get a lot of time in front of the camera. And I think that is also part of the natural evolution of where YouTube is headed. I think YouTube is headed to very large teams of people while still maintaining its rawness and vulnerability and authenticity. As long as we never lose that, we'll continue to beat Netflix and Hollywood every day.
But I read up on your latest one, the one about just YouTube, like people behind YouTube, like all the videos right now, they're getting underpaid. They're not getting the credit that they deserve, and that's really something that is not talked about. So I really appreciate that
Yeah.
insider like look into the
Well,
whole industry.
yeah, that's happening with like a lot of industries though. With like, it's happening with the book industry and the publishing industry. It's happening with the music industry. There's these lower kind of cast independent artists and musicians and writers and creators in which nothing is monetarily there for them to receive. They're kind of doing it for the love of the game, you know, just like a hope and a dream. And then at the top, there's these kind of just stupid amounts of money getting thrown around. And there used to be a really good, strong middle presence, like what they call like, you know, mid-tier writers and like mid-tier musicians, you know, they're not selling out arenas, but they're selling CDs and they're getting streams and stuff like that. And now because of this viral creator economy that we live in, there's almost been like a destruction of the middling creator, where advertiser budgets are given to the top creators. Yeah. You know, the attention economy is going to the top creators. And this thing that's usually that in the past, even like 5-6 years ago, where there was like this, you know, Patreon and follow me and this deep kind of community, that almost fell away a little bit, because algorithms today aren't actually there was this really, really great talk a while ago called The Death of the Follower, and it talked a little bit about how the idea of followers and subscribing and all this stuff, it's slowly dying out, because algorithms are becoming able to anticipate our interests, right, and our hobbies and passions, and getting much, much better as an aggregate. And so it's no longer a priority that we need to see certain creators in front of us that we choose to like and subscribe to. Now the algorithm's kind of doing that for us. And one of the places where one of the groups of people that kind of become marginalized in that space is definitely those middle tier creators, right? And so I think that's actually both good and bad, because I think it's easier today to build a community online than ever before, because there's so much volume. And there's also like, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Okay. There's so much volume, but so much of it is bullshit. And so if you're willing to go online, be vulnerable, be raw, be real, have insights, and care about the community that you're trying to actively build, you're so far ahead of the game. And with things like paid subscriptions on Substack or Patreon, or, you know, super chats, or for live streams, there's so many ways for a community to support the thing that you're trying to do. There's so many kind of monetary models now that don't involve having to kind of capitulate what you have to say in the way that you have to say it.
Do you think this has changed you as a person with, you know, just realizing all these, you know, like not secrets, but, you know, just stuff that reality?
I think it's Not necessarily, because I'll tell you what, my general infatuation for the idea of celebrity has been totally diminished.
Yeah.
I don't really kind of have like that idolizing factor in my head now when it comes to celebrity. Now it's a lot easier to look at celebrities and just like see them as people.
Yeah.
And know how much work is getting done behind the scenes and how
Social
hard
media probably helped.
their job is. Yeah. Whereas it's like this weird kind of counterintuitive thing as like creators and influencers and celebrities are becoming like more and more idolized. I've found myself becoming less and less influenced by their celebrity, to where it's just kind of like, hey man, I know you're super famous and cool, but also you got a lot of problems that I can see from a distance, and like we should just have a cool conversation about fixing them, because I think I can help you. And so there's this influx like in the trajectory of my career where I realize, all right, I'm gonna start talking to famous people, and like you definitely can't be like wigged out by that, because some people they kind of get in a room and they just freeze up.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I remember, yeah, when you would, back in the day, you would see them as, demigods. So yeah, almost. But now yeah, I think with social media, it's definitely made them more human, but also like there's you're not really trusting because everything is just somehow still scripted in a way. Totally.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdest kind of things I've generally found, is that the people that receive some of the most hate online are like some of the greatest human beings, and it's so like undeserved, right? They're just like so in the spotlight that they're getting all this negative attention, and like if you know them personally, like in the real world, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why are these people being targeted? Meanwhile, on the flip side of that, there's these other big influencers that nobody talks about that just sing their praises so positive, and it's like those people are kind of shitty, dude. So it's like I've learned to never really judge a person by their persona. It's very much like who they are. And that's the thing, is we're in this industry that kind of makes people need to be a certain way on camera, and so you can't really take that at face value. You kind of have to dig a little bit deeper and realize that people are people online. And I wish everyone should try a little bit harder to remember that.
I think that's probably the underlying reason why I wanted to start this people on the platform, because there is a human being behind that screen, behind all the editing. And that's what has been missing, I think, because we're always expecting them to act a certain way because that is their brand. So the whole commodification or product, there's a word now, productizing yourself,
right?
Which is like for me, really, we are products now.
Doesn't that sound like a dystopian future?
It is, yeah. But yeah, I mean, tell me about when you do encounter like the burnouts, because you are constantly creating and always thinking about, okay, what am I going to do next? Of course, what's your take on having those creative blocks or burnouts?
I'm so against it. I'm so against it from like a philosophical, ethical perspective, but also just like kind of industry professional perspective, and from a personal perspective. You can't, so many YouTubers like to kind of fly by the seam of their pants and put videos into the pipeline and then kind of just like crush it out, and then they're kind of turning and burning content. And there's, you might see one face on the screen of the thing that you're watching, but there can be many, many people behind the scenes that you're not seeing. There's lead video editors, there's assistant editors, there's kind of general assistants, there's a lot of designers, there's script writers, there's researchers and developers, and YouTube has a way of burning those people out, because one of the advantages that we have over traditional media, over Netflix, over Hollywood, is sheer volume. And we kind of always have to have that anchor in YouTube if we're going to be able to compete for the attention. And so a lot of people get burned out. And so a big part of what I do when I go and talk to creators and look at some of the bottlenecks in their system, I say, hey, man, your people are tired. You ever thought about kind of scaling this team a little bit, or finding people in different time zones to like rotate one into the other? So, there's a lot of little clever things you can do to try to kind of relieve some of the pressure. Because I think YouTube has a really unorthodox amount of pressure, both on its creators and on its creatives. And I also think that a lot of the narrative around output and content, just a bunch of myths. I don't necessarily believe them. I don't think that posting more is better. I don't think that matters at all. I think if we just spent a little bit more time creatively to let things breathe and try to make better videos and challenge our executive creative decisions and try to get more input and then reshape this thing into a more original thing rather than the first idea that someone had down the pipeline, I think the videos would be better, and I think people would be more creatively fulfilled. And I also think people would be less burned out. The work-life balance for a creative is it can be exhausting, but you can also feel really guilty about it because you're like, I'm doing this thing that I love and I should be sacrificing for it, right? Like these, so you feel like just like the miner that goes down into the coal mines, or the fisherman that goes out to sea, you're like, I'm doing this thing that I love and it should hurt a little or it should sting a little. And I don't necessarily buy that. I think that burnout culture, hustle culture, I think all of it's kind of bullshit. And that's coming from someone that's married with kids that you have to have a work-life balance for your health and for the loved ones around you. I think that's the biggest priority. So if you're working in this industry, anybody, and you're starting to see yourself be affected by burnout, it's time to have a conversation with someone and probably yourself. Don't do it. It's not good. It shouldn't be normalized. We shouldn't be glorifying it. And I'm doing my part to make sure that people know that it shouldn't be accepted.
No. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned about family and having children and, just trying to balance that out. So I'm just curious about how you told maybe your friends that, I'm doing this, this content now on YouTube or on Substack. Yeah. How did you break that story? Because there are a lot of people who just keep that, like, remove that from the conversation with regard to the family and stuff like that. But how did you share that?
I remember with my now in-laws, because my wife and I were just dating at the time. I remember we flew down to her sister's graduation in Seattle, and I kind of pitched this whole thing to them. I was like, I'm going to do video editing and I'm trying to do like this Upwork thing. And they were like, that's cool. But the thing about me is that nobody ever had any expectations for me. Or to say it differently, everybody thought I wasn't going anywhere. Like I was going nowhere fast. And so I think, rather than doing another entry-level position at some company that didn't care about me getting paid no money and stressing myself out, I think people were generally excited for me to try to do something that I was really passionate about, because in some ways it was the first real big creative risk that I took professionally in trying to like build a career for myself. And it was always supposed to be this backup plan. Right. Video editing for me was the backup plan. My original plan was to be like a fantasy author, like sci-fi fantasy novels.
Not too late, by the way.
Yeah, dude. And it's not easy, it turns out. And it was actually, for as hard as video editing is and finding clients, it's infinitely easier than trying to get someone to read your 2,000 word fantasy epic, or 200,000 word fantasy epic. It's not a lot of people are down. And so I wrote screenplays and wrote novels and did all this stuff while video editing on the side. And there was this weird influx where I was like, oh, this thing is actually a career and this is more of a hobby. So I guess I'll just stick with this. And that's it. I just stuck with it for like a decade and happened to get really good at it. But yeah, I think when I think about the reactions people had to me, my wife was pumped. My friends didn't really get it. They didn't really care. And my family in general was just kind of like, okay, that sounds nice. Like nobody really cared. Because I actually had this huge conversation with my wife in the early days of YouTube, maybe like 2012, 2013, where I was like, hey man, influencers are going to be a big deal. There's going to be this economy. They're going to be so much more important than
What
like
year was
advertising.
This
was like 2012, 2013.
Wow, it's so early. Wow.
I kind of seen this thing happening, coming down the pipeline of like, I found myself connecting with YouTubers in this way. These, even on Instagram, even Instagram influencers and stuff like that. I found myself connecting with people in a totally different way, like through the internet. And I was like, as soon as I saw like my first, MK Marquis like recommending a tech product over another tech product, I was like, I trust him. And I was like, oh shit, that's so powerful. I just trust these people. And so I was like, this industry, I think, is going to be a much bigger media industry than what people give it credit for. And so back in those early days, I don't think anybody really knew what it was going to become. I saw a few canaries in the coal mine and I was just like, this is the place I want to be. And it worked out, luckily.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, how do you deal with, because you mentioned about, doing your own thing. Being an individual is probably one of the constant struggles, and because you always refer to the other people who are in your probably like small genre or category, right? So how do you handle it, staying true to yourself at the same time, not too original, because maybe you're too unique. Is there like a balance that you try to make sure it's...
Are you talking about for creators that want to go off and start like a YouTube channel and stuff like that?
Or
okay. Yeah, that's hard. There's a couple of, it all goes back to storytelling.
Right.
There are certain qualities that a character can have that make them admirable. Honesty, passion, determination. There are certain things that a person can have that just make them genuinely interesting to an audience. Not necessarily relatable, right? But kind of more interesting as a human being. And you feel like kind of connected to this person because these are skills that we all wish that we ourselves had. And so I don't know if it's necessarily about staying true to yourself and your perspective. I think people kind of on average tend to do that on YouTube pretty well.
Right.
I think it's more about letting yourself be 100% fully free to be super passionate about the things you're passionate about. Like whether it's, doing like something really cool on like an Etsy store, making bead jewelry or painting Warhammer miniatures or like whatever that thing is that you're really interested in. Think about how interested you are in that thing and think about the most excited you've ever been about that thing. And then bring that energy to the camera every time you turn it on.
Right.
Be the most excited you've ever been about that thing and passionate, and let that shine through to your audience and it'll become contagious, but
don't
unfortunately the same
things, right?
Yeah. Don't half-ass things. Because I think in conversation, sometimes people tend to get really wishy-washy. And the unfortunately, counter to what some people might say, YouTube isn't a conversation. It's a parasocial relationship where you're trying to put a message out and have people gather around it. Right. And so that message needs to be very loud and clear. And so I don't think there's a lot of room on YouTube for meandering and I don't know. Like, no. You need to know how you feel about certain things, and you need to project that to your audience, because that's the thing that's going to be the connective tissue of you and the digital web online, and the connective tissue of your community to you and one another. And so if I had any advice for anybody going out into the world of digital media, it would be take whatever you think you want to talk about and the things that you're interested in, and then turn the dials up to 11 when it comes to just how interested, how obsessive, how passionate you are about that thing, and let it kind of bleed through from you through the camera to your audience. Yeah.
It's so true, because the more you prepare for content, right?
Yeah.
You do your research, you ask people, and you become even more passionate about your interest.
Yeah, let yourself fall in love with it in the way that you would expect others to fall in love with your content. You know what I mean? Like, love is infectious. Obsession, passion, all that stuff is so contagious. And so if we can really let that dimension of our personality kind of percolate to the top, and let that be the thing that shines through. I'm not saying everybody has to scream into the camera like some YouTubers, but
right.
Being kind of, open, honest, passionate, and really just letting that be the pinnacle of what you're doing on camera, I think is so important. And I think that's the biggest learning curve for new YouTubers, is they're trying to figure out how to talk to a camera and how to be themselves, while also like trying to quote unquote stay interesting. And it's like, dude, you just got to be, I forget who said it, but there's this great quote about like creativity is essentially like the ability to let yourself be like a child at play, and that freedom that children have when they're playing games. That's kind of how you should try to see yourself on YouTube on camera, is like being at play. It should be fun. It should be no pressure, no stress. You're just kind of trying to be a friend to people a little bit, it's kind of hard to describe. It's a lot easier to critique someone doing it wrong right? than try to,
you can spot it, basically.
Yeah. Sometimes people seem a little stiff or a little robotic,
right?
And it's like, hey man, we're not reading the news. Like, we're here to have fun and connect and get people inspired. And yeah.
But how do you handle virality and algorithm, and because there's just so many things to think about these days that
I know there's so many. It's so weird. This is one of my biggest complaints, right? Is like so much of the creator economy is people teaching other people how to be creators. And it's like, whether it's what I call professional uncreatives, which are people that they don't write, they don't video edit, they don't study film, they don't do shit. They don't do anything but do analytics reports and study the data, and they're professional bean counters, and they're more than willing to take your money to tell you how to title and thumb something. But all of that, a huge chunk of our industry is about chasing virality, chasing a payday, chasing clout, chasing fame. And it's like, number one, it's probably not a good idea, because you have no idea how you'll respond to a tidal wave of negative online backlash until you've actually done it. And a lot of people just buckle at the knees. And so you might, to get into YouTube or digital media and for chasing virality or whatever, it's not even the point of it, dude. Right. The point of it is you're supposed to picture whatever your dream job is, whatever you want to talk to people about, and what would make you stoked to wake up every day and make videos about it. And you're just supposed to do that and then learn from your mistakes and until you make videos well enough where people are attracted to it. This idea of people chasing virality over and over, what actually happens is everything becomes so sensationalized with so much stimulus in the video that it fries our brains. That's why it's called brain rot. Is like, but what's happening, I think, a little bit, is that audiences are starting to learn that really is empty calories, and that they feel kind of bad after consuming a lot of it in one sitting, and that in their content diet, they need other things that are more meaningful, like Life of Riza, there's a lot of really great examples of people that are making really great content online. But I like to look at Life of Riza because the production quality is there. She is, unapologetically herself. She's doing everything she wants to do exactly how she wants to do it. And it's fucking incredible. It's so incredible. Like that kind of thing gets me really excited about the future of YouTube, to see someone that's just making things how they want to make it. And they're not sacrificing 1 ounce of their vision, And so don't chase virality, chase an idea of your own vision of happiness, your own vision of making that valuable little thing, that if your little penguin pebble, that if just one other penguin said, I like what you made, you'd be like, really? It's like, that's what YouTube should be.
And
Virality's
also,
dumb.
it's inevitable to connect with that person, right? That someone will find you who is just probably as weird, or however you want to, whatever interest you have, they're gonna find you as long as you stay true to yourself.
YouTube has something for everybody, and that's what I love about it. It's an equal playing field for everybody. It doesn't matter what you're into, who you are, where you come from, what your story is. There's people to connect with on there, and as opposed to like Instagram or TikTok or other things like that. I mean, we're dealing with long form here, like long form content. That's why podcasts have primarily been so successful, is because it's enough time to really immerse yourself in what someone's saying, feel like you're getting to know them, seeing it from their perspective, and just kind of being a fly on the wall. And there's a certain comfort to that. There's a comfort to long form that short form and text and audio don't necessarily offer, as opposed to long form video. And so, yeah, I think as successful as YouTube is now, I think it's going to be infinitely more successful in the future. And that's actually what my next article is going to be about on Substack, is why YouTube just keeps killing Hollywood, and Hollywood doesn't really stand a chance. Yeah.
And yeah, I think YouTube has stuck to their guns over the years. I think, yeah, of course, there's some stuff that they added, like stories and things like that. But in essence, it's really how it's been for over a decade now.
Yeah, it's a really interesting company. I think they do a really good job of trying to stay relevant, whether it's chasing shorts or community posts or live streaming, or whatever the newest and neatest kind of feature might be on the platform. But I don't feel like they've ever kind of done dirty to their core identity of being a long form video platform. And so in that way, I really, really do kind of respect what they've done. They got a hard job, dude.
Yeah.
There's like 2.5 billion active users. It's a lot of content getting uploaded every minute. They got a difficult job.
So what has been the biggest misconception you feel that, people who are getting into content creation, being their own, star, whether it's writing also, or whether it's being a podcaster or YouTuber, what has been the biggest misconception?
Probably, there's a lot of, I think, huge misconceptions. You hear them. They're very quippy little cool axioms like gear doesn't matter, or, consistency is king, or, all these little things. I tend to write those off quite a bit. I think gear does matter a little bit, just because the barrier of entry is so much higher than where it used to be. I don't think consistency matters nearly as much as trying to provide value. I think that's probably the biggest misconception about YouTube. So many people make videos in their head of it's trying to see the forest beyond the trees a little bit, where they're making content really like for themselves. And that's fun, and that can be cool, and that can be very therapeutic, and there can be a catharsis to that. But it's like, you really have to consider the audience that you're making your content for, and then try to provide them, which is with as much value as possible, like from their perspective, from their perspective, looking at your content, what's everything that you could give to them to kind of just make their jaw drop and go like, wow, I just learned the 10 most interesting things I've learned this year in this 10-minute video. This person is so hilarious, is so cool, seems so, I connect with them. I think the biggest misconception is make what you think is cool. And that's all you need, right? Is like use your own creative sensibilities and instincts to make. There's a lot of cool art videos that are like long form on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
But I can tell the difference between one that's made for an audience and then one that's made for the artist. And everybody can be really cool and like be like, man, this is my art and my personal thing. But like, hey man, someone's going to have to listen to that album. Someone's going to have to read that book, and someone's going to have to sit down and watch your hour-and-a-half masterpiece of like, a video essay on like Citizen Kane. And like, at the end of the day, you do have a responsibility to try to make things entertaining and valuable to people. And so I think the biggest misconception is people just not taking into consideration audience first, right? That's a big one that I see with early creators. But anybody that's making videos for over 2 years, they get that now. That's like one of the first learning curves, is trying to figure out like, why is nobody watching? It's that perspective shift a little bit.
Take some figuring out as you go. Even for myself, I had no idea where, like, I was trying different things, right? And yeah, later on you'll see, okay, I think this is something I could like just sit on a bit longer, like different topics. So you also have a YouTube page, a channel.
Yeah.
Is this something that you are updating and producing videos for? Tell me about it.
Yeah, not necessarily. That my little YouTube channel is I'm pretty sure I have less than 1,000 subscribers. It's not there for me to this is kind of like me not taking my own advice, but my little YouTube channel is like focused on mental health. It's focused on like trying to build people up and kind of like being a friend to talk to. And it is very, very, very niche. And I had a lot of people in my cohort ask me like, man, why don't you make bangers, bro? Like, why aren't you making viral content? And it's like, dude, like I've spent the last 10 years like making tables. I just want to make a chair and like sit down. I just wanted something that was kind of like, that would really, really connect with people on like a really kind of deep level. And that's something I could do consistently. However, I stopped posting videos because my personal life got really, really crazy, and my professional day-to-day work stuff got crazy, and I started having to cut things out. And but that's kind of what that YouTube channel's there for, is like, though, is I could always go back to it and start making videos again. I'm not pursuing it as a profession, and I think that that's also kind of how people should pursue YouTube, as a really kind of a passion-filled, deep hobby. People that tend to go into it wanting to make money tend to burn out.
I think it's very useful. So because you have all the other, and it's probably why I also have this tangent in on Substack, where I feel like sometimes you just want to talk to people, right? Because you are always in like, okay, I have to brainstorm about something, not next article to write about. But yeah, I think same as you with, this is something that I feel like it's important also to share without even thinking of, oh, we need to, make it exciting. Yeah, so I'm totally with you on this one. We're about to close on the episode, but yeah, I still want to ask you about, what are your thoughts on content creation as a career in the future? Like, we're talking about AI being like a threat, I guess. Yeah. So
I don't think it's a threat.
okay.
Yeah. even though my very first article I ever posted on Substack was like the coming creator extinction event, where I'm like, AI is coming for you. I don't actually, I think in the short term, that's true. But the way that I see like content going is actually recursive. I think that it started YouTube and social media in general in a video format started out being a place where you could go see cool, interesting, smart, weird people doing things that they were really passionate, obsessive, interested in, and sharing it in an unfiltered, raw, vulnerable way. Um, and and somehow that got very corporatized, and it got very serialized, and it got very polished. And wouldn't you know it, the direction that we're heading towards in this AI future is very polished, high production value, blue. Oh my goodness, everything just looks so professional and aesthetic. Yeah, that's why I think now more than ever, people just flipping on a camera and recording their thoughts, talking to an audience, are having so much success. Because the parasocial relationship that was the original, not necessarily the value proposition of social media, but it definitely was like one of the main attractors of what made it different than traditional media, was lost a little bit, and it was kind of manipulated and like dare I say even kind of like perverted at times, with people wanting you to like buy their course, buy my merch, buy my stuff, and having to almost like commoditize their community, right? Everyone's got to make a living, but you know, when you already have so much money in the bank, is that really like, do you really need to be selling people courses for $10,000 a pop? Like, that seems kind of shitty to me, but that's okay. But now you see people flipping on a camera and just having a conversation and trying to like build a community. And I think that that is the future of content. I think that AI and its polish and the advertiser friendliness and all that Disney Channel gunk, I think is probably, it's kind of like that thing where like parents or kids always want to do the opposite of what their parents do to like rebel.
Yeah.
And so like the counterculture of where AI is taking us is actually just taking us back to what YouTube kind of used to be, maybe in a little bit more evolved or elegant of a way. You know, like I'm one of the things I'm fascinated by is like the evolution of the vlog. Like I would really consider like Life of Riza to be like an elevated vlog, right? And so I think that we're going to see this kind of return of a little unpolished, a little raw, a little, because number one, that immediately cuts through the noise of YouTube when everything is faceless and AI and automated. Like that language of AI and that polish is, audiences are learning it. And just the same way you got to balance your content diet between brain rot and then stuff that's actually like good and valuable for you. You know, you're going to want to balance some of that out with like, okay, I'm not getting that parasocial connection thing, even like subconsciously, that I desire from social media. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to find it. And then you're going to go to Dry Creek Wrangler School, right? You're going to go to, you know, people just sitting down, riffing, talking to the camera. And, you know, who doesn't like watching those videos of like a 100-year-olds, like just giving you life advice?
Yeah. Those
you know
are
what I mean?
nuggets.
Those are great.
life lessons, right?
Yeah, those are so great. Yeah, I don't need a super polished version of that. I just need that. Like they're great.
Totally with you on this one. But what would be your, because we talk about like if there's any takeaways for people who are considering already starting content creation, being their own boss, I guess, but like, you know, because we wouldn't have imagined, I never imagined that this will be like an actual career. When I was a young person, it's like doctor or lawyer, but yeah, digital content creator, was not in there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would tell, and this is probably actually one of the biggest misconceptions about trying to make a career in content. If you're actually trying to be a creator and like make stuff, and you're like, yeah, passion's all good and dandy, dude, but like I want to make this a career where I actually make some money. and I'm not willing to sacrifice like my own artistry. So I don't really want to mess with automation, cash cow, faceless channels. I want to do my own thing, but I need it to be successful. Like, what's your advice in that situation? It's choose your home base very carefully. X is, people have a lot, it's very polarizing. And so it's a very polarized audience. It tends to reward sensationalism. It tends to reward things that are more brain rotty. Instagram, it tends to be more of a shopping center than an actual video platform. If you're gonna do YouTube, just do YouTube. Don't worry about cross-posting shorts to TikTok and Instagram and Blue Sky, and don't worry about any of that, dude. Just double down, triple down on YouTube. Make long form, make short form, whatever your thing is, and just focus on that single lane, and like until you start to see momentum and growth, right? And then even then, like, keep going on YouTube. I think it's less important now than ever before to be on multiple platforms. I don't think it's that interesting. I think that platforms don't convert well to other platforms, and now, like, kind of shitty, you're punished for it. If you include a YouTube link or a Substack link or something in an X post, it gets no impressions. Right. Same thing with Instagram. If you try to like link out, it gets less impressions. Same thing with TikTok. They want everyone to stay on the app. Everyone's vying for attention. They want everyone to stay on their app. And so we're almost getting like this internet feudalism where now there's like certain kingdoms and there's walls around those kingdoms, and never the twain shall meet. And so, yeah, I wouldn't worry about cross-posting or having multiple accounts and growing a presence on multiple things. I would just do YouTube.
Okay. That's a very good point. Because, it's changed now, right? Like, because that was the initial impression that you have to be everywhere. And somehow, I guess there's some learnings now from all the metrics.
I think that probably speaks to someone's motivation for like wanting to like what they're doing too, right? Because if you're doing a thing and you're putting it everywhere for everybody, like, what's the old adage? Like, if you're making something for everybody, then it's actually for nobody or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you got to make videos for like this portion of the population that just happens to see things the way that you see it. And you got to find them, and you got to find them on the platform that they are, and everybody's on YouTube. And you got to make content for them that they want. And you can make everything on YouTube. You can't make everything on TikTok. You can't make everything on X. And you can't make everything on IG. And even if you could, I don't remember any of those being like one of the world's greatest search engines. So discoverability is a real problem on other social media sites. Case in point is like Twitch, right? Whereas like discoverability on YouTube is like one of its kind of grand things that it does. So, but I'm biased. I love YouTube. Right.
No problem there, because I can't argue, because it's the OG, I think.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know how YouTube is going to fight to stay relevant in the coming decades, but I'm excited to see. And I think no matter what we do, it's always going to be a place for everybody, a place with people making videos, people writing scripts, and not just a bunch of AI pulp. I don't think that serves an audience. I don't think it serves the people making it. I don't think it serves the company. So I'm sure that YouTube has less of a chance of getting taken over by a bunch of AI slop content than people actually think. I don't think that they're interested in that.
And I think also that platforms have peaked now. Like, you can't really, I don't think you can come up with another original platform, right?
It'd be hard.
Yeah.
It'd be really hard. I think there are some cool ideas for social media platforms, but I think they're going to be more niche.
Yeah.
They're going to be platforms for filmmakers. They're going to be platforms for stand-up comedians. They're going to be platforms that are kind of more niche rather than like these broad, overarching type of media platforms. Yeah.
All right. I think that that's those are my questions, and then we were wrapping up our
They were great. They were really good questions.
Yeah, I mean that was the intention. I really wanted to ask the questions that are not normally asked, and I hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed our time. And hopefully, yeah, we'll get to have more content creators wanting to have this conversation. But yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for allowing me to
You bet.
yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was
And yeah,
awesome.
and I guess I just close with to everyone who will be hopefully will be seeing or listening to this episode. I want to thank you, and today's conversation made you pause and reflect, hopefully, and hopefully we get to see you next time. Thanks,
Yeah.
Taylor.
Sounds
Thanks so
great.
much. All right.
Thank you much.